Well, good day everyone, and thank you for coming back to the next video. If you've been following me for the last few years, you've noticed that I stopped making Bible teaching videos, I guess a few years ago. And the main reason was the Holy Spirit wasn't leading me to do anything new. And I felt like I would just be making repetitive videos and speaking about the timing, and I was just sort of done with trying to predict timing. Years ago, maybe 2 years ago. But now I've come to understand more information over the last year and really over the last 6 months since July that has caused me to see a whole new picture of what's coming. And what is coming as far as the end of days using biblical prophecy that's found in the Old Testament is different, wholly different than what I think we have traditionally thought. So, but in order to even get started with explaining a lot of that, it was too much for me to explain in one video. So this video series is probably going to be 4 or 5 videos, and it's going to culminate with a timeline that I've shared on my community page that many people have read it and thought there's no way that's what the timeline is. And I get it. I would have said the same thing 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, but now I'm certain of it. I'm absolutely certain. I'm taking a literal interpretation of the book of Revelation, and I'm adding a twist. I'm taking the words of Jesus literally into account, and I'm searching through biblical prophecies in the Old Testament that were never fulfilled, that have to be fulfilled in order for these events to play out. So the problem, if I could just state this without showing you anything, the problem that we have is we very diligently, here, let me just show you, we very diligently attempt to read the Bible and make hay of it. We want to read, and we all do this. We read the book of Revelation very thorough and hard. Sorry, I'm having to improvise here. Just 1 second. So when we read Revelation 12, it speaks of a sign that's in the sky that everyone thinks, I thought, occurred on September 23rd, 2017. This did not. September 23rd is not the fulfillment, in my opinion, of this. This is a great sign appeared in the expanse of the sky. Nobody saw anything on September 23rd, 2017. We all watched it from our computers simulation. But this is an upcoming event. The September 23rd sign is what woke me up and brought me out of my slumber. I'll do a video on that. But let me just give you an instance right here. It says, verse 6, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where there was a place prepared for her by God, which she was to be nourished for 1,260 days. Okay, so we read this verse and we think we know what it means. But there is 2 chapters in the book of Hosea that tell us exactly what it means. If you read Hosea 2, this speaks about a woman that goes into the wilderness. So I'm not going to go through it right now, but this is where we lack. We read a single verse in the New Testament, and we speculate on what it means. For some reason, this is not wanting to go here. I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness. Who is this her? It's a woman, according to Hosea. So Hosea 2 verse 14 is a woman being allured into the wilderness. And so Hosea 2 and 3 speak of this event. So anyway, that's what I've come to understand when we read these verses, like another one here. Let me show you another one. If you've watched my latest video here, this right here, Revelation 6, verse 2. And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering to conquer. Well, that's one verse. Yet everybody has decided the interpretation is that's the Antichrist. Well, it's not the Antichrist because there's not a single, there's nothing that confirms it's the Antichrist. You have a rider on a horse with a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering. Well, if you looked at my latest video, I think I shared this, and we can see that Habakkuk, well, let me just real quickly here. This singular verse here is confirmed by Habakkuk 3 to be Jesus himself. That's the nature of my previous video. A whole chapter represents that one verse. And even more are 3 more chapters. Psalm 45, Jeremiah 4, Micah 1. Micah 1 is a conqueror. That's the glory of Israel that's going to come and steal away your children. That's what it says. Jeremiah 4 has Jesus on a horse, and then that horseman and that archer, and says, at the noise of the horseman and the archer, every city takes flight. Jesus is being referred to here as the archer. That's a man with a bow. Psalm 45, Jesus rides out victoriously, and he has arrows that are very sharp. Here we have it again. So these 4 chapters confirm what we don't have from Revelation 6. Okay, I digressed for a minute. So the purpose, sorry guys. So what I want to do is, in the next few videos, I want to answer these questions. I have 10 questions here, and they're going to culminate with what I would say for myself is new understanding about what is actually going to happen. And what is actually going to happen in these end of days is not what I used to think, or what most people think. So I'm going to start off with an overview of the book of Revelation. We're going to look at it in total, all the chapters together at once. And it paints a better picture than just trying to read the chapters. Okay? Speak about the Revelation 12 sign. We'll do all that in one video. And then we'll talk about the 2 witnesses. What does Scripture say about the 2 witnesses? And it's not what most people think. It's not what I thought. Frankly, it's not Elijah and Moses who were with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. At least there's scriptures that say that it's somebody else. Okay? What is so special about the spring of 2028? The spring of 2028 is the culmination of 80 years for that generation and 2,000 years of the church age. And these 2 timelines collide in the spring of 2028. And from that, we can begin to put together the puzzle pieces of the timeline of the end of days. The most critical aspect, to me, of any biblical prophecy is understanding who biblical Israel is. Jacob is the one who was named Israel. He gives the birthright blessing, and he makes the proclamation on what tribes are to carry the name of Israel. It's not what you think, and it's not replacement theology. Okay? Number 7 here confirms this. If you don't understand 6, then 7, how can Jesus be saving the Jews in the Middle East while Israel dwells securely in the land? I call it the Jeremiah 23 question. How can this be? You can read what the words of the prophecy say. And to me, this prophecy never made sense to me until I came to the realization of a couple things. It says, Jeremiah 23 verse 5, Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will raise up for David, is that King David? A righteous branch, that's Jesus. And he, the righteous branch, Jesus, shall reign as king and deal wisely. Is this in the millennium? I say no, it's not. It's before that. And he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. Well, what land? Is it the Middle East? In his days, Judah will be saved. Okay, Judah are the Jewish people of today. That's the Jewish state of Israel. That's an easy one to understand. So in his days, in the days of this righteous king that is raised up for an entity known as David. Is this David from 3,000 years ago? Does King David, is he resurrected when Jesus saves the Jews in Zechariah 14? Or is this David another king? Is this David a type? Is this a type of David that's going to be reigning over the Christians and the Jews? So in his days, Judah will be saved while Israel will dwell securely. How is that? How can Israel, if Israel is in the Middle East, dwell securely when all hell is breaking loose, when Judah is being saved? Have you read Zechariah 14? Zechariah 14 is so confusing. It's very confusing. Let me just give you a hint of its. Guys, bear with me 1 minute. I'm getting off on a tangent here. Please read Zechariah 14. The coming day of the Lord. Remember, Elijah comes before the day of the Lord. Right? And I will send you the prophet Elijah before the great and awesome. So who is this Elijah type? I don't want to get off on that tangent right now. It's not who you think. So behold, the day of the Lord is coming, when the spoil will be taken and the land divided in your midst. For I will, this is God speaking, I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to go to battle. So God is the one that is bringing the nations against Jerusalem, a little city in the Middle East. And the city shall be taken, and the houses plundered, and the women raped. So God is allowing this plundering and raping. Half of the city shall go into exile, but the rest of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then, after God has brought all of this mayhem, raping, plundering, then the Lord will go out and fight against those nations as when he fights on the day of battle. Like, why didn't he just come a few days earlier and stop the carnage? He just let it happen, and he caused it. Think about that. I mean, anybody who wanted to argue about whether you have a loving God, why is God doing this to his, quote, covenant people? On that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives that lies between Jerusalem and the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west by a very wide valley, so that one half of the mount shall move northward and the other move southward. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach Azel. And you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah the king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all of his holy ones with him. So this is when Jesus saves Judah. This is it right here. The Jews live in Jerusalem, and that's who Judah is. So if I go back to my question here, in his days, that would be the righteous branch that's been raised up for this entity known as David, an earthly king of the whole house of Israel. Israel is dwelling securely in the land. Let's keep reading. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when they shall no longer say, as the Lord lives, who brought up the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt. See, we're going to forget about that event because there's a new event that the Lord's going to do. But as the Lord lives, who brought up and led out the offspring of the house of Israel, that's not the same as Judah, out of the north country and out of all the countries where I had driven them. Then afterwards they shall dwell in their own land. So how can Israel be dwelling securely in their own land while Jesus is saving Judah? This secure land for Israel must not be part of the Middle East for this to make sense. Where is this secure land for Israel that apparently has to be separate from Judah's land? So this is the information that, to me, just screams we need to really understand how to interpret Bible prophecy. Okay. When does the third temple have to be rebuilt? Well, it has to be rebuilt before the witnesses come. Because the witnesses, what's the first thing that John does? Let's go to Revelation 11 real quick. How does this chapter start off? John was given, then I, John, was given a measuring rod like a staff. And I was told, rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and those who worship there. But do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out. Okay, so John himself is given a measuring rod. Well, I know that he's in the spirit realm, right? He surely wasn't measuring the temple on earth 2,000 years ago. And this temple is on earth because it's going to be trampled down. The whole city will be trampled down for 42 months. This surely isn't the new city, Jerusalem, that's in the sky, right? No, it can't be. This is a temple on earth. So John is having a vision of measuring the temple, the earthly temple. Well, there was no temple in 95 AD, and there is no temple in 2024 AD. So very soon, for the two witnesses, for this part of this prophecy to come true, there needs to be a rebuilt third temple. It doesn't exist. So Zechariah 1 gives us this answer. Might even have a picture of it. Right here, Zechariah 1. This is Zechariah 1. Therefore, thus says the Lord, I have returned to Jerusalem with mercy. My house shall be built in it, declares the Lord of hosts. And a measuring line, wasn't John given a measuring line? Shall be stretched out over Jerusalem. Here is Zechariah 1. We have Jesus returning to Jerusalem before the temple's rebuilt. So Jesus has to return to Jerusalem before Revelation 11. Have you read Revelation 10? Who is the guy that comes out and puts 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the land? That's Jesus in Revelation 11 and gives John a charge. So anyway, that's the stuff we're going to continue to study. And so what this means is we have a timeline that I would say, which I'm going to get to, is pretty incredible when you think about it. So to me, the timeline started 80 years ago or 77 years ago when this 80-year generation began in 1948. And it ends, if I go 80 years past IR5 is May 1st of 2028. It ends that flyaway moment. You ever read Psalm 90? For your years are 80 that are filled with toil and tribulation. Then we fly away. The church flies away. Doesn't a woman fly away? Fled away, Revelation 12:6, into the wilderness. So we know that there's the days of Elijah that have to occur prior to the coming of the Lord, the day of the Lord. So if you subtract 3.5 years, it's November 6th. What happened on November 6th? Was there an Elijah figure that was appointed, given a position of authority? And during this 3.5 year time, before the witnesses can come, we have to have the temple rebuilt. So sometime in here, we're going to see Zechariah 1 fulfilled. So is anybody predicting that Jesus is going to show up prior to the temple being rebuilt? The temple's got to be rebuilt for the two witnesses to begin their 1260 days. And that's when the woman flies away, which lines up with Psalm 90 here. So anyway, that's what I want to talk about. More of that. But you can't get to there, in my opinion, until we've answered all these questions. So hopefully you guys can hang around till that's done. The last thing is what has totally changed my thinking on the future is the words of Jesus. And it's these words right here, the green text. To some of my friends, I've sent this out to probably 20 people over the last 3 months. And I keep asking about the green text. The green text is the future fulfillment of a second coming Elijah. So the pattern we have is the first coming Elijah was John the Baptist. And the angel told Zechariah in the temple, he said, your wife Elizabeth's going to be pregnant. She's going to have a baby boy. You're going to name him John, and he will come in the power and the spirit of Elijah. So John the Baptist came in the power and the spirit of Elijah. And he was the first coming forerunner. And Jesus says there's going to be a second coming forerunner. But the second coming forerunner, along with turning the hearts of the people, here, Malachi 4:5, and I will send you the prophet Elijah before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes, that he's going to turn the hearts of the people like John the Baptist did. He's going to be baptizing people in some body of water somewhere, I think. I could say, but you wouldn't believe me, so I'm not at this point. I'll say later. A body of water where people are going to be reflecting on their sin. Think about that. People are going to be reflecting on their sin as this future John the Baptist is going to be baptizing them, washing them down in a town somewhere. So the second coming Elijah, he will restore all things. Well, maybe he will be responsible for restoring the third temple. Whoever is going to do this third temple thing, now some might say that he is the Antichrist, but I would say not. That comes later. The Antichrist comes later. I can quickly show you, just to give you my interpretation of this. The Antichrist does the abomination here at the midst of the 70th week of Daniel, which I say is here. When Satan is cast down to the earth, the abomination happens in the middle, just like Daniel 9:27, and then the beast rules for 42 months, and then Jesus comes. Revelation 19. Everything is taken literally out of the book of Revelation. Revelation 11, Revelation 12, Revelation 13. Right in order, exactly how John saw it. We're not piling things on top of one another. It's all straight how John saw it. So, okay. So the second coming Elijah has two key requirements, goals, tasks. He's going to restore all things in the future. Remember, Jesus said this in 28 AD. It hadn't happened yet. Elijah does come. And Elijah does come first to restore all things. He comes to restore all things, and then he's going to turn the hearts of the people before the great and awesome day of the Lord. So guys, I'm going to do more videos about this, and I'll share this with you as we move forward with this. Guys, have a great day, and God bless you.